I'm gonna make a series about a whole bunch of specifically MRR, rebills, reoccurring charges, continuity, specific back-end things that you can't really find the information just by searching online. Like you put a Google search, say you're getting into rebills, say you've got a whole bunch of straight offer offers that are just crushing it, or maybe you've got offers that were crushing it but you're getting outbidded in the auction for media buying by somebody who can just spend more than you because they're doing rebills. And really that's the power of this rebill model. I'm just going to make a series talking about a lot of the things that you just can't really find specific information in. And it's a really common thing that, you get these e-commerce people that have been in ecom for a long time and they've never done rebills. They get into rebills, they get into MRR, and then they're just hitting pothole after pothole, and the consequences can be grave, right? You can lose a lot of your money that you put into this thing. If you just are hitting pothole after pothole, you could lose your mids, and say you've spent $1 mil, $2 mil on ad spend, you've lost all your mids because you've made some simple mistakes and you've made some no-nos, but you just didn't know they were a no-no. I'm just going to talk about, right now I'm going to talk about the money mules of IBOs, and later videos I'll talk about other things. You can leave comments about things that you want to know about, but for this video I'm going to talk about what IBOs are and how to do them in the context of MRR. So I got the title as MRR Money Mules IBOs. So if you think about the cartel, right? The cartel, they get money mules, right? They need to move money between America and wherever they are, Mexico or Colombia, whatever it is. And so they use money mules to move the money. So there's the same kind of thing in rebills, except we're riding the gray line, right? We're not doing anything illegal. But what we are doing is we are breaking rules of financial institutions, right? Of like rules of companies, essentially. So we're breaking Visa rules, MasterCard, card network rules. That's what we're doing. And if you want to get into rebills, that's what you're going to have to do, right? Unless you're actually providing some proper service, right? You're actually, scheming on the people. But, for people that are like me, we break the rules. So we don't break the laws. And realistically, your biggest problem isn't going to be breaking the laws anyway. You've got the FTC, you've got these American US government organizations that you might think, oh my God, I'm going to get a letter from the FTC. You're not going to get a letter from the FTC. The only way you're going to get a letter from the FTC is if you become a trophy. You become loud enough, big enough, and glorious enough that somebody that's working within the FTC can earn a trophy by taking you out. This is why the FTC is constantly suing Facebook, Instagram, Meta, Netflix, Google, all these big companies for business practices, right? For like violating some business practice or some, unethical business practice or whatever. They're trying to collect the trophy. So you just don't even have to think about FTC as an issue. You don't have to think about any three-letter government agency being a problem, because you're not doing anything that bad and you're not going to be loud about it. If you're on social media and you're flexing, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, this, that, the other, and you're super loud about it, you're causing controversy, you're going to get attention, and you're going to get all kinds of attention. And if your name gets big enough, like a lot of the names have gotten big enough, specifically in the BizOp niche, right? You see people getting destroyed, and the BizDoc niche sued for $50 million, $60 million, sued for everything they've got because they were really loud, and they really, specifically in BizDoc, they really destroyed the consumer because they're taking, high ticket offers, 5K, 10K a pop, right? Which could put people into debt, and that really destroys the consumer. Super loud, and you get super loud disputes, super loud complaints, you get BBB complaints, everything, the whole 9 yards. So if you're not loud about it, you're smart about it, and you structure your traffic and your bank pages and your whole system in a way that sort of quietens and dampens that volume, right? Makes it quieter. Which is, there's a lot of things you can do, specifically on the traffic side, right? Like if you're running one traffic store and you've got a domain, for instance, say it's it's whatever, it's fucking coolshit.com, right? And you're selling cool shit on coolshit.com, and you're getting a whole bunch of chargebacks. You're running it for a year. Because you're running it for a year, you're accumulating that volume. It's getting louder and louder and louder. So instead, what you should do on your traffic side is you should, every month or so, rebrand, right? Because it's still the same ads, it's still the same product, it's still the same feeling, you're still converting cold traffic anyway. So it's no different. You're converting cold traffic anyway. So you just rebrand it to damnshit.com or something. Similar logo, blah, 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 blah. You just cycle through like every month or every 2 months, and you dampen it that way. But besides the point, you don't got to worry about the FTC. What you got to worry about is the visa rules, and the actual acquiring bank, right? Acquiring bank and the card networks shutting you down, right? Like the card network sees some shit, and then they flag the acquiring bank, or they destroy the acquiring bank's bin, or the bank identification number of your acquiring bank is just naturally getting destroyed from all the disputes, and then it sort of organically sorts itself out, right? And it gets loud, and then you just end up with shit approval ratios, and you just pretty much, it's the same shit as losing a mid anyway. But you need to be worried about is the acquiring bank and the card networks. So that's the issue. I don't know really why I went on that tangent, but forget about the FTC. Don't worry about the FTC. The FTC doesn't give two shits about you making 100, 200, 500K, $1 million a month. They don't give a fuck, right? They couldn't care less because they don't even know. And how they don't know is you're a single merchant, right? You're just you. But what you do is you have IBOs anyway. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, the money mules, the MRR money mules, otherwise known as IBOs. So IBOs is where you can actually scale your fucking business, right? So it stands for independent, maybe you've heard this before, business owner. So in other words, it's a corp, right? It's a corp, right? So an IBO is just a corporation, and you're using that corporation to go and get MITs, or other words, merchant processing, and that's really all you're doing. So the corp provides, you get the bank account, you get the what else? EIN, void a check to confirm the bank account, and then articles of incorporation. These are the things you need. And another thing they're going to want to know is, a lot of them may check like how much funds, like current balance, current business bank account. Let's go business bank account balance. And depending on processor, you might want to have 2K plus, right? 2K USD plus. or 2 to 5k, 5k or 10k. You want to look as legit as humanly possible. If you're just you're applying and you've got a new corp and it's just got no money in it, well, it looks quite sus, right? It looks suspicious. It looks not legit. So these are what you're going to need, right? Business bank account, EIN, which you get with the corp, and voided check, articles of incorporation, current business bank account balance, and that's really it. And that's what the IBO is. So if you're outside of the US or you're inside of the US, no matter which way you cut the cake, right? If you're a foreigner, if you're in the US, you're going to need IBOs, because every single IBO is going to have a mid cap, right? Like, it's going to have a mid cap. It's going to have a mid cap. You can only get so many mids, and the way you scale is, scale horizontally. You scale horizontally. So, out of a single IBO, right, a single person, I'm trying to make this as least confusing as possible. US citizen, okay? It's a US citizen, right? So it's an of-age person. They're going to have to put up this, the SIN, social security number, SSN, all that shit in order to get a MIT. So the inherent, bottleneck is you might think, I've got a single IBO, which might be yourself, and you think you can just scale to the moon. You can scale to 2, 3, 5, 10 million a month in rebuilds, but you can't. That's because there's a mid cap, right? You can only get so many mids per corporation. So if you take this IBO, right? You take this corp and you go apply for processing, they're gonna come back and they're gonna give you mids, right? And for every mid you submit you submit a bank page, right? So you might get 1 mid or 2 mids from one processor, but eventually you're gonna hit the cap, right, of 3 mids or 4 mids per processor. Then you have to find another processor, another acquiring bank, and you have to sort of try to get options for mids and get more mids, right? But eventually you've got all of the good providers and you can't get any more, right? You can't get any more mids. So in that case, you have to maybe get another corporation B Corp, like the second corp, and this could be the A Corp. So you could get, and this isn't, forever. You could get the person, this IBO, this US citizen, to incorporate a second LLC. And then you go apply to these same people and you get yourself another 6 mids or whatever it is. Okay? But the cap again is that you can't go over here and maybe get a C Corp, right? You can't get a third corp and then do it all over again. Maybe you can, but you definitely cannot get a 4th corp, right? Some higher risk payment processors might let you get a second corp if you got a good relationship with an agent in there or something. But you're not going to get a 3rd. Maybe you get a 3rd, but you're not going to get a 4th. So eventually, you end up in the same position, right? You've maxed out your processing ability. So all of this may be, this might be equal to, I don't know, like 500k a month, right? Of like safe rebuilds. 500k USD a month. And but now you're capped out, right? Like you've still got the offers working, you're getting volume, but you're having to turn ads off because you have reached capacity. So in that case, you need to get another US citizen. So you need to find a second US citizen. Okay? And then you repeat the whole process, right? You incorporate a corp, you get a business bank account, you voided check, articles of incorporation, you put 2K, 5K, 10K into the business bank account balance, get the social security number, and then you can apply to processing to get those mids again. Boom, boom, boom. You get yourself another 6 mids, you repeat it, you get a B Corp, with the same second US citizen processing, boom, boom, boom. Okay? So really it becomes a, getting nominees. These are called, there's a few names from like IBOs, nominees, I've heard some people say members, like there's all sorts of ways of calling them. So then you have to get yourself some US citizens. You get yourself a third, right? You get yourself a fourth, so on and so forth, right? Fourth, fifth, sixth, 10 of them, whatever. And now you've got 2 corps for, 5 IBOs. You've got, that could equal, I don't know, maybe 80 meds or something. It really depends. So now you've increased your capacity of how much you can do to maybe, I don't know, like in safe terms, right? Maybe like 1.5 mil. Maybe you can do 1.5 million a month in rebills. Okay? So another thing with the US citizens, like if you're gonna, there are providers, right? There are like brokers, but some of them are quite sketch, because like they're finding the US citizens. You don't know how they have found the US citizen. Did they put an ad up in order to get the US citizen? Did they do some sort of done for you business, or some product, or they sold, or they stole the identity? Like you don't know, right? So that's where it's kind of a bit of a black box, and you can't really trust it fully, and it could lead to litigation or something because he made some stupid decisions. The broker made some stupid decisions in order to get the US citizen. But you can get them through a broker. So you might pay them, I don't know, 2.5K I've heard, 3K, maybe 2K, like really depends. A month for the broker. They might have a setup fee or something. And then the broker will basically get all of this: the business bank account, invoice to check, articles of incorporation, business bank account balance, social security number. And then you get more capacity that way. But yeah, that's pretty much what the money mules are. That's what IBOs are. You're getting, okay, well actually, another requirement is a FICO score, right? So like, when you could get all this shit, but like when you're going for processing, they're gonna, the processor, the people that actually give you the mids, they could they run a credit check on your nominee with their social security number, or however they do it. And so if your nominee's FICO score is shit, then you're probably not going to get approved, right? So that's another thing to keep out. So you kind of want to have a 675 plus FICO score. You don't want to be pulling homeless people off the streets and like trying to get processing for them. Best bet is like people that you know, right? Get some like close friends or something like that. Not really family members, right? Because if you're match listed and you've got the same last name, it might be pretty obvious that you're a family member. Definitely don't get family members. Like, don't get one US citizen and then get the brother, the sister, the mom. That you can't do that. You'll get shut down because they'll know. You're essentially trying to create the illusion between merchant processors, and maybe the only person that does know that you're the same merchant is the agent, right? The agent of the processor. You might have that kind of relationship with the agent of the processor, where he knows that all these corporation A, B, C, blah blah blah, they're all yours, right? You're the same merchant. But for everybody else, their risk underwriting department, anybody else that is inside the processor or the acquiring bank or whatever, you're trying to create the illusion that each and every single corporation is their own, is a completely separate merchant. So I could get into bank pages, like some mistakes that people can make in bank pages, but I think I'll save that. I'm trying to think, like, is there anything else valuable about like MRR, money mules? Okay, so when you get the business bank account, don't log into the business bank account specifically from You know, if they've got like Bank of America or Chase.com or something like that, Wells Fargo, and you're in some completely different state than the nominee, don't just log in with their login details, because that's how you get red flags shooting up on your nominee's bank account, because it's sus. If anything, you should set up a remote access. If you want to get access to their thing, you could send them a laptop. Like, there's many ways to doing it. You could send them a laptop, have that laptop connected to their internet, the nominee's internet, and then it's always on, right? The laptop is just always on, and then you can SSH into it, or hold on, would you SSH? You wouldn't SSH into it. You'd use some RDP or some sort of remote access protocol to get into that computer, and then you can log in that way. You're logging in from his IP address that he would actually log in from his own device. Then you don't lose your business bank account, and then you can send out wires as well. You can do his phone number. You can have some forwarding thing. You forward messages from that mention a certain thing, or you could buy a phone number even, and then connect the phone number to some, thing that can just send you codes, because you'll need codes in order to, send out wire transfers and stuff like that. That's basically it. Just don't be an idiot. Like, get your IBOs, get your nominees, make sure they meet the requirements, put in 2.5K or like 2K, 3K, 4K into the business bank account once it's incorporated. Probably costs about $250 to get the corporation. And then once you have all of this, right, then you can apply the processes, and it becomes a game of like, do you have the connections? Because you don't want to get match listed. You might lose mids or whatever, that's whatever, but you just don't want to get match listed. Definitely do not use Stripe, do not use Shopify payments. You can use Shopify payments if you want. I've heard that some people are doing it, but like, they run up Shopify payments to $800K a month in rebills or whatever. All their subscribers are on Shopify payments, and then they just lose them, right? Because their Shopify payments get shut down, now they've lost their subscriber. But when you're getting your own mids from a third-party source, right, you get this thing called tokenization, which, that's a whole other thing. But it's where you get a representation of the card that you can charge it through the gateway. So if you've lost the mid, you can still charge that subscriber on a different mid. So you don't lose the subscriber the same way you would with Stripe or Shopify payments. But I'll get into more stuff like that. If you have any questions, just leave comments down below. I'll put my Telegram in the description, and you can just message me on Telegram if you've got any questions. But yeah, I'm just sort of like giving out this kind of information where it wouldn't affect our operation. Like, it's just information that you can't really find. Like, I'm sort of aggregating it through trial and error, the things we've figured out. I'll get into bank pages, do's and don'ts of bank pages, like how to make bank pages look legit, how to have a high rate of approval, because you're doing subscriptions on them. You have to make it predominant and clear that you are doing subscriptions on the bank pages. The checkout needs to look compliant, needs to be compliant on the bank pages. And if they do a test transaction on that bank page, you need to make sure that it only charges that transaction on the mid that is actually associated to that bank page, and not some other bank page, because that's how you're going to lose your mids. There's so much that goes into this, and just based on questions and stuff like that, I'll sort of explain things that a $2-3 million a month operation has gone through the trials and errors to actually learn about. And yeah, so any questions, Telegram, hit me on Telegram, hit me in the comment section or whatever.